Marcy Green, Head Public Works, Environmental Programs.
Tom Lovick, Chair.
Celeste Rose, Mayor.
Ken Bukowski, photographer.
Pedestrian also. I'm from the Emeryville Commission on Aging. Who helped put together the-
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our wonderful staff members.
Mike Roberts, Public Works, Engineer.
Nancy Humphrey, Environmental Programs. And Cynthia Armour, Bicycle-Pedestrian.
Sorry, what is your name again?
Richard Ambro, A-M-B-R-O. I'm just a newly appointed commissioner.
Cool. Great.
So, are there any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? Pointing at Richard.
Well, but his item is on the agenda.
Is items on the agenda?
It is?
Yes, the
Bus-
bus bench.
Okay,
Yes.
then no.
You must wait.
Anyone else? No? Good. Might be able to we get out of here in 45 minutes.
Wow.
Anyone look at the minutes for January 5th yet? I do want to say that I was really kind of thought that Scott's idea about going underneath the freeway was, borderline crazy until I saw this description of what was actually there.
Huh.
I mean, it's completely plausible. I'm sure, it would take a lot of work to get done.
There is a
Yeah.
tunnel.
Huh?
There's a tunnel under the freeway.
There's like
That's
three
what
of
he's talking
them.
about, though. He's talking about, by Tennis Creek. Bridge.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
he kind
So-
of had to prove it.
So right now, we're discussing minutes, right? Just to make sure we're,
Yeah, so we're working on the minutes. I don't know if you've looked at them. Anything, so we move approval?
Second,
All right. That's why. Okay, next would be the city sponsorship of Bike to Work Day.
all right.
Take it away.
It's hard to believe it's our time again. And just so everybody knows,
What is it?
it's May 14th, Thursday, May 14th. Cynthia Armour's here from Bikers Bay in case anybody has any specific questions. We're going to sponsor at the $3,000 level, and $1,000 will be for staff to spend on T-shirts and goodies to give away. Let's see, so,
Can I ask a question?
sure,
What did we, is that the same level we did last year?
yes.
And is that, as far as the Bike to Work Day sponsorship levels, is that the same as last year? We'll get the same?
Yeah.
Although, in full transparency, we did change one thing, and it's a matter of space, is on the t-shirts where, I believe we're changing it from the logo to the name. So it'll still be listed on there, but it might not be the City of Emeryville logo, it will say City of Emeryville.
Because there's more sponsors.
Yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
The other thing, I think we were talking earlier, we might do, instead of putting our little giveaways in the bags ahead of time, we might just put them on the table so people can choose what they need instead of getting something that maybe they don't want in the bag.
Yeah, make them answer one.
That
Yeah,
questions
make them
for
yeah.
What, trivia? Like trivia?
Yeah.
Yeah. You must answer.
League of American Wheelmen tribute or something.
I was just gonna bring a city farthing kind of thing.
Can I say though, having done that, one year we did that with the leg things, and it was pretty good. I mean, people who didn't want to just said, we only had one giveaway that year, so apparently saying people who didn't want to said no, and other people were excited, and they picked a color, but it just takes a little more time because people are
It
like,
does.
and if you have kids or if you're trying to explain, they can't have one. I'm just saying it adds a level of complication. So if we do
Have a seat
that,
over here, that's fine.
if we do that, I want to suggest that maybe we decide on one giveaway instead of, or just keep it as simple as we can with the options. It's nice to
Okay,
give
sure.
people the options.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that another time.
Okay,
And
great.
what I did want to ask if anybody who, you know, David, you're at Bakery Lofts, and Laura, you're near, you tend to do the 65th and the Greenway. I know Celeste.
But I live a
she
lot
does.
closer than she does.
You're
I just
gonna
don't
get
up
up
that
at
early.
6
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning and be
Well,
there. You're
so
welcome.
here's my question. I was
Yeah,
wondering
walk around
if
the corner.
the VPAC wanted to have like a smaller, like, subcommittee of people that sort of did the plotting and planning about, you know, I'll take care of stashing a table near this, you know, because there's different
Right.
things
We're
that
gonna do
we,
some logistics.
some of the the logistical stuff, and whether we use Federal Express and how we use them, and just different, who has a trailer, and, last year we did a lot of it, most of it by email. So I don't know if you go, if you're interested,
Maybe, yeah.
You know, it might be nice, David, if you're willing, if we just, like, those of us who've actually, have you, Celeste, have you staffed a?
yes.
So maybe those of us who've staffed in the past could have a smaller meeting if we're allowed to do that with you and just talk logistics.
Yep.
And sort of,
Subcommittee.
it's not subcommittee, we could sort of plot it out and then before the meeting and then bring it back to the big group, but just sort of come
Yeah.
up with some suggestions
That's
based
what I
on
was
our
thinking, yeah.
experience.
I just
Yeah.
thought that would be
I think
really
that's
good,
good.
because you guys have had so much experience.
Well, it's actually been pretty easy for me because, like, somebody brings an army.
And
And then
yeah, last
I
year
just pull
you guys-
tables out of, like, this supply room.
oh, we didn't even give you a table, you had a table.
Yeah, we
That's
just have
right.
stuff. I bring it out, and then that company, Revo, whatever.
Oh,
Rebel
people
Lights,
They brought like
yeah.
an army, and then we
Yeah.
had tables on both sides of the street. I just kind of sat back.
Well,
Or just make sure you watched your tables. or-
Right, right.
and actually, where at the one I go to, Cliff Bar, we did have tables and stuff brought, but Cliff Bar did I mean, I got there and they were already tents set up, they were doing a lot of heavy lifting, so we might be even able to get them to bring tables.
We were talking about that,
Because they
yeah.
bring a lot of stuff already, they bring a stationary bike.
Kind of, one of the things we were talking about was if we can avoid bringing tables the morning of, if we can stash them somewhere the night before. And if that means stashing one with Cliff Bar in case they need another one,
I
or
think Cliff Bar has
at
tables.
Black and White Liquor, or the Shell gas station, things like that. But that's why I was thinking,
Yeah.
instead of doing
I
it,
bet they would.
yeah, instead of doing it here, if we just, you know, kind of had like a mini meeting and staff who are gonna be involved, maybe we could all, you know, and then, yeah, come back to the big group, because it wouldn't be anything like dramatically different from what we usually do, but just
I think we all have lessons learned from having done it on the ground.
not having so many bags down the frontage road, bringing them up to 65th and the Greenway.
Well, and whether we're gonna even have frontage drive.
Well, we always talk about that every.
But now we've got this great new
Shell
facility
station, yeah.
down there.
When is that opening?
Well, let's talk about that when we get to,
Okay.
Planning.
All right, so,
yeah, so we can.
sounds like
through
good
our
things
agenda.
going. Chair, I'm gonna.
Sure.
I just want to say thank you to the Emeryville VPAC for being one of the organizations that so consistently does a good job of organizing and coordinating energizer stations on Bike Park Day. You guys do a really awesome job. It makes it so easy on my end to know that Emeryville is taken care of. And I know that you guys have, so thank you.
And work hard for you.
Yes. And thank you for your support and for, trying to do something a little bit out of the box.
So Pedal Express is still there.
Well,
We'll
we've
get
got
to talk about it.
yeah,
But
we've
there's
got-
other bus with trailers, so there's options.
The staff we've worked with before at Pedal Express are no longer there, so it's a whole new, it might be new, but we'll see. I mean, I didn't want to take a whole lot of time today to talk about it, but
Dominic's not there anymore? Oh, that's a
no,
big
he
shift.
found another job.
So what type of goodies are going into the bag?
Well, we could talk about that in our smaller committee, but
Do we have somebody for each location, representing each location for our subcommittee?
each station,
You know, the only one I think we've got how many stations? 5?
so the one that's not covered right now is St. Pablo and 40th.
Right, and that tends to be a rotating group of people.
Arizmendi did it last year, our rec department does it, so maybe
And
somebody
all
from,
just random volunteers who aren't on this committee.
yeah, there might be
you know,
somebody from the
not
rec
random.
department that wants to,
Santo was on there.
yeah,
Was
oh,
it?
yeah.
I did that one year. I don't-
And then put, Novartis, they do one, the 5th one, but that's not,
We don't have to talk about
Us.
it.
And then a former VPAC member, I think did a table, might have been a little up Adeline, Juanita's at 40th Street. Do you remember what's her name?
Oh, Rachel Joy.
Yeah,
Rachel
but
Joy.
that's the
Yeah.
one David is
Yeah.
doing,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
It's the same location, so we've got that covered. That's an important one, because I think there's work going on at Adeline on the Oakland side, which I'm hoping means they're
Yes.
gonna put in their bike lanes, which
Yeah.
means that's gonna be even busier,
Right.
so.
Yeah, last year we split that into two, right?
Yeah, two sides, yeah.
So I
Because
gotta-
it's actually, three, kind of like, there's an intersection, there's two Ts, and then there's a, so we kind of kept people, we have to keep people
Oh,
going
right.
different directions, because they don't
Right.
necessarily, they can go through without actually coming past us. So we kind of
Sneaky.
disattenuate it a little bit.
I have photos from last year.
So, all right, well,
exciting.
I'll get in touch with everybody about doing a little strategic.
Do we need a
Plan.
motion on the money? Do we need to?
Well,
recommend
we should have gotten it, or.
It's already approved? Okay.
It's going to council tomorrow, right? And we expect it to be approved. But yeah, go ahead, you might as well.
I'll move that we support the money, that $3,000.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All against? Hey, did you?
I'm in
abstain?
favor.
You're in favor, okay, good.
Who seconded?
Me.
You did, okay.
5-0.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that it for this item?
I think so, yeah. Thank you.
The bus stop bench report.
So we're gonna find this on your, it's on the desktop.
I got it.
And you guys have paper copies of it. So there's 4 bus stop benches planned. One of them is existing but will be expanded. And the one that's gonna be expanded is at Christie by Trader Joe's.
Did you say there are 4 planned
Yes.
or 4 proposed?
I'm actually,
Proposed.
I'm actually only aware of 3 yet. The
Oh, is it
fourth one
3?
took us, no, there are 4 on here.
Okay.
The fourth one we didn't get an update on, so I can't update you on
Oh.
Black Diamond one. Has Marty spoken to you about
Oh.
Black Diamond, any issue there?
No, he hasn't. Have you spoken to you, Rich?
No.
All right, well, it apparently slipped his mind today when we were talking, so I can report on the other 3 and get back to you about the 4th.
Which is the 4th one?
The Black Diamond on Christie.
Okay, great, yes, okay, Christie.
There's a question about that one, I don't know.
I need to have you go into position, I have hearing loss.
Oh,
So
okay.
if I can't face you,
You can, yeah.
yeah, I can hear your voice, but I can't
Well,
understand.
you're doing the report.
See, it says Black Diamond here.
All right.
You want to see it? Oh,
I'm just taking over, I'm the Alexander
Okay.
Haig of this
There you
issue.
And this number.
So, 5. I'll start you with number 1. And this is the one that's gonna go from 1 bench to 2 benches. It's now, it seems like it's a stub of a bench. And it's
Yeah,
gonna
it's a
be
little tiny one.
higher and more commodious for people.
And it would require excavation to either side to make the hole
Yeah.
bigger.
This one needs concrete work. So this one actually will be bundled with the Christie Avenue bike path work. Because then we can do the concrete work at the same time and it'll be cost effective.
Is that Christie Avenue stuff involves redoing some sidewalk renovations, right?
Not on this side, right?
No, yeah.
On the other side.
On the other side, but
Oh, this is just
proximity
one
makes
side.
sense, yeah.
Okay.
One comment about this stop is that it also serves the F-bus, which people take when Emeryville run's not running on the weekend mornings. You're sort of forced to go here and then, and wait for the F-bus to get to BART, or no, to get near BART. And the other thing about that bus stop is that I was really glad to see you had a shelter proposed for that, because in the winter, the seats are all too wet and you can't sit on them. So it has to have a shelter. Good point. Yeah. It's the one place where.
So shelter 2 is being proposed?
I have not heard about shelter. Have you
I
heard about
have
shelter?
shelter.
That looks like one of the options here, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
shelter is really important.
I think a shelter is always important if we can
Yeah.
possibly swing it. It
They have
just
2
makes it-
options here, so I don't know which one has been chosen.
Well, maybe that can be part of what we
Yeah,
do,
why
is
not
recommend
give
a
input?
shelter.
Yeah, you guys should give
I used to use
Yeah.
that one a lot, still
Yes.
do sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, and since there's concrete work here, the footing will be less of an issue if it's in the budget. the footing will be doable.
So is that true for all proposed benches, that there may be a shelter?
You
Well,
know,
let's look at them all on here.
yeah,
let's go with
Let's,
it.
let's look
Well,
at
let's do it this one.
Okay.
So-
And the one thing about this one, there are a lot of people
Yes.
who board there.
Yes.
Very
That's-
big stuff.
that's why
Yes.
the two longer benches are
And the
what
shelter
planned.
would have meaning too, if they can do
Yeah.
that.
I just want to throw one thing into the equation, and I don't know, maybe it's not relative, but a long time ago, the city council decided they wouldn't allow advertising, because if we allowed advertising, we'd have shelters everywhere, and they would be free, and we wouldn't have to maintain them. And I didn't think that was a wise decision, because there's advertising anywhere, everywhere. So we're undertaking this whole path with art, and I don't know if we have to protect the art, if there's any vandalism. So I just thought that, you know, if we wanted to allow advertising, we'd have shelters everywhere. So I wanted to make that comment. Okay.
All right, so for Trader Joe's, this one is scheduled third of the 3 that I know about. Again, I apologize, I didn't get an update on Black Diamond. But we expect it to be, was it spring, summer, spring?
Summer,
Summer.
pretty solid summer, yeah.
Summer. So let's go to the next one. This is IHOP. This is one of the first 2. These are going to go in shortly. And what is short? On Park? Yeah, on Park, the side there, and that's the closest one to the senior center, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it is.
And they're planned for installations shortly, so I would say, you know, by spring, they should be in there. You know, understand it.
And does that option have a shelter? No.
No, and it's not even shown on here.
Yeah, can you show us sort of draw like on the street where it is or on the map?
It's around the corner, right, off of,
This
It's off,
is,
that's like, this,
Just
you were
like
looking at
this.
Park Street, right? Do you
This is
know,
the
Mike?
north side of Park, or are you saying where on
Yeah,
this?
where would it go? I mean, it's a little
So,
hard to tell. from
right,
this.
would it-
Where's the corner, where would it go?
Isn't that IHOP
this is
right
the
there?
corner right here.
Okay, that's
And the
IHOP.
corner's on over here on this
Yeah.
photo.
And the stop is
Is a little farther
right around
down
here.
Right there.
So it
So
would probably be
here.
between the 2 trees in the second photo.
This
Yeah,
one.
right in there.
Okay. And it looks, I mean, it's hard to tell from this photo, is there enough room for a shelter to be there? It seems like if it's near the senior center, that would be a really
It would
good
be.
space
Yeah.
for a shelter.
There's enough room for shelter, yeah.
And that also, the nice thing about a shelter is that, I don't know what Emeryville shelters are like, but then you might have the option to put some lighting in, which would make it.
There might be a
nice.
sight distance issue with the shelter.
It might not be
Coming-
wide enough sidewalk or something.
Well, pulling out of the IHOP parking lot there,
In my block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the sidewalks.
we'd like to have them behind the sidewalk.
Because this is the driveway for the IHOP on Park, and this right here is the bus stop sign.
So it's right there.
So the bus stop is beyond the driveway, or it's?
No, it's before the driveway,
So it's on this side of that
Yeah,
tree and the
Even
first.
though there's a bus right there, the stop is here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, well, can we just ask staff to look into whether it's feasible to put a shelter there? And, you know, even if there isn't money for a shelter, if there's money for a bench right now and not a shelter, maybe design it so that a shelter can go in the future? Or I don't know if those two need to go in at the same
Yeah,
time.
we can definitely take that, the desire for shelter and even, you know, the option
Lighting.
to stage it in stages if need be. We could definitely take that back and see
Yeah.
what the engineering and funding looks like.
And I would add, I just did an article on BRT, so I was talking to people about all the things that accommodate seniors on BRT, and lighting was a big one, so I don't know if you guys agree, but I
what's
think.
BRT?
Oh, bus rapid transit in Oakland, we're not getting
Gonna put an X bus on it?
that. But yeah, some kind of lighting.
Like, there's no plan for next bus right now. These are not planned, there's not planned to have electrical. There may be a solar thing that could work,
That
but
would be
that hasn't
great.
been discussed.
Okay, well, I just want to throw it into the mix as something not to be forgotten, that if there's a way to make it work with lighting, or if there's not budget for that, if there's budget for a shelter but not lighting, maybe just if there's a way to design it, keeping in mind that lighting is something that we want to add in the future when more money becomes available, that is an important amenity.
Okay.
Joyce, is this a heavily used stop because it's near the senior center, or, Joyce? Is this stop heavily used? I know it's the one nearest.
Richard can answer that better than I can.
I use it almost
Yeah, it
every
is.
day. Fairly, I mean, Not all by seniors, it's a lot of younger people, but,
Because I know the Powell one over on 40th Street, which is quite close to this one, is very heavily used. But I didn't know whether this one was as well.
yeah,
It's used, it's used.
It's used, okay.
Yeah, it's used, yeah.
But it's on a different line.
It is on a different line.
It's on the-
It's
And
kind of like a
that's
transfer point,
significant
actually.
also,
Yeah.
that it's serving the Powell line, and it's also very close to, what's the Disneyland thing?
Yeah,
You know,
Pixar,
Pixar,
yeah.
and all the businesses there, so, but the key thing is, that's the closest to the center.
Right. And then for people going from the center to their homes along the Hollis line, is that kind of?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it good? Okay.
All right, so the next one, let's do the next one. And this is the one I don't have information on. And I'm sorry about that. I got briefed on these today, but I just wasn't aware, I had forgotten about this one. So,
This
report back.
Okay,
seems like one that
could I
could
make
go
a comment
in.
about that,
Yeah.
that particular stop? Which you're probably already familiar with. This is at the Black Diamond, well, it's under construction right now.
Yeah, but you can see.
Yeah, you can't see in the picture, but the situation is there. First of all, it's near Pacific Park Plaza, and it's a situation where there's quite a few apartment developments all around here. And I personally see really old people, a couple of 90-year-olds who come out of here who use this stuff. Okay, there are benches back here, as Richard and I know, but you can't see the bus coming.
And the bus can't
If
see
you're
you.
really an old person like we are,
You need a head start.
yeah, you have to, you can't get up and get there fast enough.
Right,
You
right.
get up
They don't wait.
slowly.
So
Also, the driver
those
needs to-
benches,
We would really like one of those benches moved forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I think we'd add to those benches. Those are private, on private property. so
Yeah,
we can't-
yeah.
I don't see why this location couldn't be done right away.
And is this something that's near the public market development? Could we get?
it's across the street from it on Christie.
It's across the street of the
Yeah.
64th and Christie one that's under
It's for
construction
southbound
right
Christie.
now.
Which one is Sheldon and which one is Christie? You think I know after 10 years, I can never remember.
Christie is further west.
Christie goes
Christie,
to
okay.
back.
So it's on the back end of the development,
Yeah.
sort of across, so it's not in their development area?
You know
Okay.
Pacific Park Plaza?
Yeah, it's next to.
Okay, it's a little bit north of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, but on the same street, okay.
All right, so then the next one is Los Moles here on 65th. So there is a plan. This one is one of the ones, this and IHOP can go in right away.
That's a particularly odd corner because the bus stops in both directions. Going north stops on the west side, and then coming back, it stops on the south side of the same building. So I think we originally recommended 2 benches.
No, we recommended only on 65th
okay.
because Hollis Street is so narrow.
Got it,
To stop
okay.
on Harlem Street, the sidewalk is about as wide as one of these
Right.
tables. But on the 65th Street side, it's a big wide sidewalk, just kind of like IHOP or bigger. So there's plenty of room on but we wanted it fairly close to the corner so that
Right,
people
exactly.
can't use it for both
Right,
directions.
see both directions and
Yeah,
use it, yes.
because there they could see it coming along Hollis.
Right.
And do you think it would be bad to put a shelter there because it would obstruct the visibility if you're catching the one around
That's
the corner?
possible, I'd have to
Yeah,
give that
that's
some
up
thought.
to,
Yeah,
But also, it makes it a lot better if the drivers of the bus can see that somebody's waiting. I tend to stand like right against the sign, and because otherwise I worry that I don't want to spend all my time looking down the road to see if the bus is coming. So if I'm going to be reading, my book or whatever, putting my head down, I want to be someplace where I can expect the driver will actually stop. So the only way I know how to do that is to stand against the sign. But if there were a bench, that should be visible to the driver. And I'd even go without a shelter if that's made that possible.
if there was a shelter, it should be clear, no signs,
signs.
no art,
Yeah.
nothing, because otherwise it could hide the.
Assuming they can see in.
Right,
to it.
exactly.
They may not be able to anyway.
Yeah, but the art fund is gonna pay for it, so you gotta have art.
What?
That's right at the.
The art fund is gonna pay for it.
For the shelter?
Yeah.
So that's where we stand.
You're saying this is gonna be done right away?
Yeah, this one and IHOP,
Okay.
This one and I.
yeah.
Like we.
And possibly Black Diamond.
And possibly Black Diamond, we weren't updated on that today.
So this was the first I heard of this, when Joyce sent out, we sent out an email to various places. And I have been using Emeryville, well, for 2 years, virtually exclude for all my transportation. Now, these particular stops, except the Trader Joe's one, I use heavily for that and for the F-bus, and I still use it for the F-bus. But I don't spend as much time on Hollis or Christie. But there was one place where some of my unhappiest minutes, it seemed like hours, waiting for Emeryville were. And that's the one it's on 40th Street near Hollis. What happened is I'd be there, it would be the end of a day, I'd have all my gear for the whole day in my backpack, and I would have stopped there to go shopping, so I would have big packages, and I would be really pooped out. There is not even a wall to lean against.
Right.
I found myself sitting on the curb with my feet in the gutter. I mean, it's really a miserable spot. So if there's any place that needs a bench, I would say that's number one. Certainly that'd be number one on my list. Now, it may not be specifically for seniors, I think it's for anybody, because a lot of people, Michael's is right there, and Home Depot is near there, so people are coming out of those places with really bulky packages. And then in the rain, there was no place to put them. You couldn't even put them on the ground because the ground was muddy.
You're talking about 40th and Hollis?
Yes.
Yes.
40th and Hollis.
When we met with the Public Works Committee, do you remember, Richard? They suggested that we come up with additional suggestions, so
To me, that would be
let's
number
do
one on my
that, and that
list.
can be round two.
Yeah. And I'd also like to add, this gets into a different topic, but now that I have a car, I don't worry about that stuff anymore, because if I'm gonna shop in that area, I'm gonna take I do take a car, but I think it's little amenities, like having good, comfortable benches in a place where you're gonna be with packages, that makes the difference. That can make the difference for whether a person like me drives across town, or whether a person even has a car, because you need it for things like that. And so just a few little improvements, on the Emery go-around can really make a difference in whether somebody even has a car.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, like running it on weekends, huh?
Oh, yes.
Well,
Here, here.
with the mornings and Sunday evening, absolutely will make a difference in whether somebody has a car or not. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe we want to make a motion that the city consider that the city adds shelters wherever feasible and budget allows to
Or
these
maybe
proposals.
benches. Oh.
Well, no, but they
the
add
benches.
shelters as well as benches, and that they add 40th Street and Hollis at
Yeah.
40th.
There was one
That's
other
another-
place, and people can comment on this, I think it's very, very lightly used, but it was the one other place where if I was there waiting for the bus, it was because I was too tired, it was the end of the day or late, and I was too tired to walk 3 or 4 blocks home. And that's the one near Kinko's. It's on Christie Street.
Yeah, I like that one too.
And it was the same thing. I would either be too tired to walk home, even though it's a short distance, or I would have come from shopping, like Trader Joe's. My pack would be so heavy, I realized I couldn't walk home. And so I would walk over there and wait. And then, again, you'd have to be standing out on the street because there's no place that you could wait and sit down or even put your packages down where the driver would see you. So, yeah.
On Christie.
Originally, I was thinking of suggesting 64th Street going north, but it's so narrow. I think
Yeah,
we'll
right,
finally
you couldn't
get-
do that. Well, we've got the solution anyway. I think that that's a good solution, the bus stop at 165th.
Yes,
Because you can really
yes,
see
yes,
it both
exactly.
ways.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that works for both ways.
Exactly.
Because of where, well, you couldn't get it. Yeah, it works for both.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So do we have a motion, or do we have additional
Do you want to
comments?
make the motion?
I don't have anything else to say.
What I would think the motion is we consider those 2 additional stops, especially the 40th and
And
Hollis.
encourage shelters in all
Or do we want to
cases
make two
possible.
Would
Two
you
motions.
guys consider making 2 motions?
Yeah, why don't we do 2
Yeah.
motions?
One to cover this and one to cover
Additions.
additions?
Okay, so first, so 3 motions.
So we don't get them all.
Well,
Okay.
so.
3 motions.
Well, one for the additional locations, and then one for shelters, and then plus Joyce's.
She
The
can't
third
make a
would,
motion.
the third would be to approve this.
Yes. Yeah, or the first.
Well, why
approve
don't,
that.
why don't we
This is a
approve it with
report, I
shelters?
believe, on what's happening.
Oh,
Yeah,
this
no,
is
I
not-
think this is
we don't
already
have to
happening,
approve
but
this.
I think our motion is just that we would like the city to to consider shelters, put them in wherever feasible, and if it's not feasible, right, and with lighting, and where any part of that isn't feasible, to try to design so that that can be done in the future when funds become available. So that's the first motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, do you want me to word it?
What do you want me to say it again?
Well, it was- so
What
the
did you
city to consider and construct shelters and lighting
With
where-
lighting.
with lighting where feasible at all benches proposed.
Yeah, all the proposed sites, and to design so shelters can be added if they're not being put in.
Okay,
So that we don't, 2 years from now, have someone say, well, that size bench, we can't put a shelter, or whatever, you know, I don't know, maybe that's not even an issue, but just.
It's gotta be a standard size for a shelter.
Yeah, the question that comes to my mind is, at some point, there's gonna be a price decision to make about more benches or more shelters, you know, at some point. I don't know if we're anywhere near that point right now, but it's just something that may come up.
At Novartis, there's a shelter with no bench in it. That blew our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the stop I go to when I
That's
take the
totally
camera.
used.
It is heavily used, it's mostly by Novartis people, and you can sit near there because they've got landscaping you
Yeah.
can sit on, but if it's raining,
Yeah.
we're all standing inside
Right.
the shelter, yes.
Well,
It'd
maybe
be
that's
nice
why
to
there's
have
no
benches.
bench.
I don't know, I'm guessing there's a shelter because Novartis put that in, I don't know.
It looks like all the others, so.
Oh, does it? Oh, maybe
Yeah.
it's a city.
So your proposal, the city would decide which ones to put shelters on? I mean, either would be the most heavily used ones?
Or the ones where, I mean, there'd be maybe some feasibility, like the
Or
Trader
the
Joe's
feasibility ones.
has a design, because that's sort of got a lot of space around it, but maybe you can't put a shelter if you're too close to a driveway, or, you know.
Too close to a building, or
Yeah,
you're
there
blocking
may-
the rest of the sidewalk.
Yeah, there
Or-
may be some issues.
like Mike was talking about, the line of
Sidelines,
sight
yeah.
and.
Yeah, the Key
Motorists.
Plus one, I think, is pretty lightly used, but it needs a bench, but I don't.
So how much
Probably doesn't need a
sidewalk do you
shelter.
need, how much sidewalk do you need to keep clear with a shelter?
Talking to me?
Behind you.
At least 3 feet. We'd like to
It
have
really
5.
should be a lot more than that, right?
We'd like to have 5.
Yeah.
Joyce, when you two brought this up last time, the procedure was to go to Public Works Committee
Yes.
with it?
And then they referred it to your committee. And then your committee, my impression, refers it to city council.
Okay.
Transportation committee.
Yeah.
We go to Transportation and then City Council, but we may need to go back to Public Works with the new proposal. I don't know, or whether that goes directly
I think
to
you could just,
Transportation.
I'm guessing you could just go to transportation.
Yeah, well, she's proposing,
It's just an
I thought
add-on.
the proposal that she's making is pretty flexible,
Yeah.
which it says, if possible,
Yeah.
to add shelters and lighting. And so that would seem to me would then, the city would
Why don't
make
we
that
just say
decision.
recommend shelters with light?
Well, yeah, that's what I said, if feasible, you know, wherever feasible.
Yeah, I thought,
Just to
what
put
she
that
is
into
is
the
Why
that
did
it's
it
design.
out?
feasible, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recommend shelters with lighting where feasible.
With feasible
Yeah.
shelters?
Yeah.
And then there was the second
motion.
Maybe it needs to
So let's
go
do, we
back.
should do one
Well,
motion and a.
his department needs to consider
Okay, that's
it,
the
right?
first motion?
That's the
And
first
they
motion.
can
It's
make
been
What's
made
the,
and
what's the,
seconded.
okay, so
Can we,
what's,
can we vote on that first and then?
okay, let's vote on that first motion.
Which
All
is shelters and lighting if possible.
All in favor?
All right.
Was it second?
Wait, so the
Sorry.
front-
Yeah,
yeah,
so let's
let's-
second.
Celeste, okay.
I can't get my second to that.
I'm sorry, I was distracted. What was that motion?
That was to add shelters wherever
The one,
possible.
yeah, where feasible.
So then the next motion is to add some locations. Do you want to do that?
Was the vote 5-0?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Just guessing.
To add benches and if possible a shelter at 40th Street at Hollis on the north side of the street.
And Kinko.
Pardon? Yes, but especially the 40th Street one is, I think is very, very high priority. And then secondly, to add at least benches at Kinko's.
And I wonder if we can add to that, the 53rd Street. I happened to use it in a while. I forgot it doesn't have a bench, but to add a bench.
Where's that?
53rd in front of Novartis, so southbound on Hollis. It has a shelter but no bench.
Bench
You
inside
might-
shelter.
You might as well have these all things
The
brought up and
benches
looked
should be
into.
everywhere.
We could just
The
put it
benches
on
should
the
be at every
list,
stop.
The thing is, I feel like the northbound stop, people get off but don't get on as much, but people get on a lot at the southbound stop.
Which one?
53rd and
Novartis.
Hollis in front of Novartis. A lot of people get on, not as many people get on going northbound. But I'm not a heavy user, so I may be wrong.
Is the stop at northbound just a sign?
Northbound's just a sign.
Yeah.
And it's a
And
narrower sidewalk. The southbound has, it
And
has a
the-
shelter, so.
the 40th at Hollis, you're talking about the eastbound one going to Bart.
No, I'm talking about the one,
Westbound?
the one going to my home.
West. Does it say that on the sign?
No, it just
This
occurred
way
to
to
me.
select,
You should probably have
we want
both.
wayfinding, this way
So
to select.
No, because for me riding it, if I'm getting on the other side, I'm going somewhere else. But I just occurred
That's how
to me.
things get done.
It occurred to me that there are probably a lot of shoppers who are going to Bart and taking Bart home
Either way,
on the other side of the street.
Well, on the other
I can't
side-
speak to the other side, I never get on there.
I think, don't those bus stops, do they also serve the 57 or does that stop at San Pablo?
They also serve the F
It
bus?
stops at San Pablo, but they serve the.
The F bus.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the eastbound direction is, I've used that stop and I feel like that gets a fair amount of use also.
It does, there's several other buses that go there as well, not just the F, I think it's 31.
30,
Yeah, 26. It's
26, yeah, there's like 3 AC
27.
Transit buses and
There's something that comes from San Francisco.
That's the F
The
bus.
Yeah.
C.
And
No,
the C and the
also.
J also go in this area, I forget which
I'm not
bus.
sure.
Okay, so is the motion for both directions on 40th?
I think we should make it both directions.
Yeah.
It's a nice
Why
wide
not?
sidewalk in the
Okay.
eastbound.
Okay, just checking. And
40th
then,
Street in both directions.
and a
what
bench
else?
inside the shelter at Hollis at 53rd.
Right,
And the Kinko's
and
location.
Chico's, which
And
is
the-
what,
the-
that's
the-
Christie and something.
It's Christie, it's called Christie at Shellmound. Or Shellmound, is that Shellmound Court or Circle or?
Shellmound Way.
No.
Shellmound.
Shellmound Way,
Yes.
right.
You know where
No, it is
Shellmound curves over to Christie?
Did they buy the
Yeah.
street? So it is Shellmound Way that comes through
But it's
there.
near
The little,
Kinko's.
is that where Shellmound curves around
Yeah.
and comes up and hits Christie?
Yeah.
That's what
It's actually closer to 59th.
I just say,
The
Kinko's.
stop-
Just say
It's
Kinko's, that's the clear
This-
part.
Well, on next bus, the stop is called
Must
Christie
be
at
so
Shellmound,
close.
Okay.
as opposed to
Oh,
Shellmound
that's
at
true.
Christie, which is a different
You're in
stop.
trouble.
But if you say Kinko's, everybody will
All
know
right,
what
the
you're
Kinko's
talking about.
So once
Yeah,
again, is this
yeah,
northbound or southbound?
Yeah.
It is
Or both.
southbound.
It's,
Southbound.
no, it's really, well, it's south, but it's gonna turn
It's
west.
south, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's southbound on Christie.
It's
Right,
southbound
that's
on
right.
Christie
Okay.
at Shellmound. Quarter way or something.
And so this was your motion,
Yes.
and who, I'll
Second.
second.
Can't do it, Tom.
Okay, shall we vote on this one? All in favor?
So move Laura, second who? Sorry.
No, it was Celeste and David second.
Oh, okay. Celeste and David. Okay, and then 5-0. Okay, thank you.
Are we done with this item?
No.
Sorry.
Oh, you took your vote, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Since we're on this subject, I would just like to give you a little update about benches at the MacArthur BART station.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, talk about desperate, that's where I
Yeah.
get desperate, just standing, you know
Yeah.
how,
Yeah,
Did they take out the benches that are
every go
near
around
the?
me
all the
It's
shuttles,
about a-
there's no benches.
is about a
No
block from
they're
the,
used to.
Right.
yeah, and there's nothing. We used to have not only old wooden benches, but we had planters that were sitting
You
size.
could-
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Now the planters are just
Oh,
far
yeah.
off the ground. And I see people sitting
I
on
tried
those
to
poor
sit on
little
that.
plants and squashing them. However, we've been putting some pressure on Bart about that, and I understand that Bart intends to install benches probably by the end of this month. But if they don't, I've got an address for you, and I'd appreciate any additional pressure that this committee could put on Bart to install those benches. And then the second thing that we're going to do is with the Emeryville Transportation Management Association, which is the board of directors for Emery-Go-Round, we are going to, this month, go to their meeting, a couple of us, and, from the commission, and ask them to move the pickup and drop-off place of Emery-Go-Round closer to the entry to BART. Because as it is now, if you are exiting BART and you can't walk real fast, you cannot get down that block fast enough to catch your bus.
Yeah, they don't wait very long.
Nope.
Yeah, and it's just too far. So I understand that I've been told that the reason they did that was they wanted to get Emery-Go-Round to have its own pickup and drop-off place, separate from all the hospital shuttles, but it's a huge disadvantage.
But the
It really
hospital
is.
shuttles take up the space that's closest to BART,
Yeah.
and that was probably deliberate.
Yeah.
Because people sort of hopping
Yeah,
out.
but we used to also drop off in that mix. Now we no longer do
Some
that.
of them
I
do.
think the
Yeah.
mix is, I would definitely recommend not to have them mixed together. That was one of the worst things about the old,
Yeah.
the temporary location.
Yeah.
You just couldn't tell whose bus was whose.
Yeah.
And so now having them in separate, I think having them in separate places is very important. If it could be backed up a little bit towards BART, that would be better.
Yeah.
But I think they really have to be kept separate.
Well, there is room enough to back it up. They could back it up about almost a half a block and
And-
still be out of the mix.
And if you would tell them to put they have these little scraps of paper dangling off the side of the bus saying which bus it is.
Yeah, that's
So
the
when you
better.
see a bus down at the end and you think it's your bus and you either run fast or you run slow and it's a really long distance and then it's not even your bus.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think on the drop-off, they could do it with the hospital shuttles off, but not the pickup.
Right.
Oh,
right. They
well,
did do
that would be
They
good.
used to do
That would be good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just wanted to tell you that that's also in the works, and if any of you are interested, please keep track of what happens in the next month, and let's see.
So you're going to their meeting to propose this?
I'm going to, yeah, so a couple of us from the Commission on Aging are going to go to the Transportation Management Association board meeting, which occurs in about 2 weeks, I think, and ask them to please move the shuttle closer. The request has to come from them. We can't request BART to do it. They have to, because they were the ones who asked for it to be moved down there. But of course, they don't ride the shuttle, so I don't know what that long one.
Joyce, was there an address that you mentioned earlier for people to?
I don't have it just right
Okay,
now.
okay.
You
Yeah.
can email it just.
So just the board of directors of the.
Yeah, it meets about 9 o'clock on a Thursday morning. Is the,
But I mean.
It's the third Thursday when it's-
oh, would you like the address for them?
Well, whoever you think that everybody should write to, if you want it in the minutes, or.
Well, for
if you want-
benches, it's BART, and then for, to move the shuttle is the Transportation Management Association. Yeah, the two separate entities.
You can't move, no, they,
BART has control of the benches, and they have at least they have input on where the Emery-Go-Round stops.
Okay,
So
what's your-
I
what's your-
could get that to you if you want to give me a email address, and I can send it to you.
Do you think we were just trying to spread out the shuttle users, so that they weren't all in one place, that they were spread out the length of the block?
Well, they were trying to keep the hospital shuttles right in front of the station.
Right,
And
but you
then-
say there's space that the Emery go-around back.
Yeah, there's a big space there that isn't used by either, as far as I can
well,
tell.
there's no signs, so you don't really know,
It's hard.
no signs at all.
Very confusing.
There's no signs there.
No, there
Right.
aren't. Yeah,
Right.
that's
It is
another thing.
confusing.
Okay, well, we're way off topic here. And we're a
Okay.
little bit past. Yeah.
One of
You had one more comment.
well, now, a question.
Jim Marcy?
What's the status of dealing with the mess at Berkeley Bowl, which is also served by Emeryville Park, but it's in Berkeley? And there's,
So Emery-Go-Round goes into Oakland.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop there.
It's run, it's funded mostly by a bunch of businesses and then partially by the city, correct?
That's a different
The
I know it is.
TMA, right?
Well,
So what's the question?
Well, the question is, what's the status of putting a bench somewhere
Oh, at the Berkeley Bowl stop.
at Berkeley Bowl, not in front of Berkeley Bowl, but he'll have a bar.
That's really bad, because that's one of the narrowest
Well,
sidewalks
except
around.
there is,
It's about 2.5 feet wide.
at the
But
north
that's-
end of that block, there is a berm right adjacent to the sidewalk that has plenty of room for a bench. You
So
can
that's
get-
a Berkeley,
Yeah,
But
that would
that's
be
a
something to
Berkeley
take up with
question.
Berkeley.
The other one
Yeah.
is an Oakland question.
Yeah.
But that is still served by Berkeley, and I use that a lot.
Yeah, that's a
You know.
great thing.
Yeah, it is. So I don't, you know,
All right, well, we're moving on
Berkeley
now.
should pay for the bench, because they're getting all that business from it.
Absolutely. Well, Berkeley Bowl should pay.
They
for that
really
bench.
should, yeah.
yep.
anyway, hopefully it'll be kept in the hopper.
Thank you for all this
Yeah,
consideration.
thanks for
Thank
staying
you.
on top
All
of
right.
this, yeah. Thank you so
Yeah, the
much.
Thanks for coming.
city of Berkeley is somebody to contact about a bus bench over there.
Yeah, and is Eric Anderson pedestrian as well as bike, or is he just bike?
He's like Pez,
So that
well,
might-
they might have hired somebody, I don't know.
He's Public Works. He's Public
It's
Works.
definitely Public Works, yeah, I just don't know if they might have hired a part-time.
I think we should talk to Karen because she lives in that part of Berkeley and that's her bus that she gets to and from work.
Karen Hempel?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
She might know who at the city of Berkeley you should put them to.
What the procedure might be.
All right, so we move on to communications and reports. Planning department.
Hello. So, planning, some plans of interest to you, maybe that the EBOT study was approved in January, so that's very exciting. About a year and a half to work on that. I know many of you participated in that, so thank you. And then also something that you saw a couple months ago was a 3706 San Pablo project, which is affordable housing development on San Pablo, and they asked you for some feedback and ideas about bike parking, which they did make some modifications based on that. And that project was also approved at the last planning commission meeting, so just so that you're aware of that. Also, what was the third thing I wanted to
Sherwin-Williams?
Sherwin-Williams, the notice of preparation, the comment period for that has been extended to February 27th. So if you're interested in making comments,
Do they have a design yet for the buildings?
that's very preliminary.
Very-
It's not elevations or anything like that. It's more the characteristics.
Well, you know, Tom, there was such a turnout at the planning commission meeting and the scoping meeting that I think they're gonna have to rethink that whole project. I mean, there were really extensive comments by the artist cooperative.
Well, is there a comment placed on the website?
Yeah, so if you go to, first of all, the planner for the project is Miru Desai.
Who?
Miru, M-I-R-O-O.
No, yeah.
Last name Desai, D-E-S-A-I. So you can email her at mdesai@emeryville.org. And so any comments or questions you have about the Sherwin-Williams project, you should direct to her.
Can I ask a question? I
Yes.
heard that one of the issues is, when we saw it last, I think we were looking at a couple different park layouts, and we really liked one that had a bigger park. And I felt like the people who live on Park Street in that area were really leaning toward a different layout that would split it into two small parks.
I think everyone kind of ended up with that, the one.
The big bar?
The
Oh,
the
okay.
big park.
Well, part of this assessment is looking at what's proposed, and they have option A and option B, which is what
Yeah.
you're talking about with the two park design, but also to look at alternatives.
Like a third option.
Yeah, or potentially more. So, yeah, and looking at the potential environmental impacts of all of those options.
Now, was there a meeting to discuss what would be included in the EIR?
Yes, and that was the
Has there
scoping
anything
meeting
done?
that happened, and that's, at that point, at that scoping meeting, people requested that comment period be extended. And so in response to that, the comment period has been extended
Okay.
to February 27th. So definitely contact me if you have questions about that, and you can submit comments via email or via letter.
Okay.
Okay?
And then one hopefully short question. Do traffic considerations go into an EIR?
Yes.
And was that something you would normally be?
Yes.
How many cars?
Traffic and shadow were two of the main issues
In EIR?
that were brought up at the scoping meeting that people wanted
Okay.
to have addressed.
Okay.
And then lastly, something that just came up earlier, so I'll speak to that, is the Shell station at the corner of Frontage and Powell. Part of that project that was approved was to improve the landscaping at the corner and to have a bench, a bike fix-it station, a bike rack, and also a map of the Bay Trail, so you could have a little "you are here" and see where you are along the Bay Trail. That's part of the approvals for that. That's not complete yet, but they're nearing completion on that, and hopefully, you know, in the next couple months, that will be done. And so hopefully we'll be in time for the Bike to Work Day, so it'll be completely different from last year where everything was completely torn up, as I recall. And so now it should be all complete and have a nice solid connection through there. Is that a fair assessment? Mike?
We'll try to do
Yours
that.
has, so.
More traffic,
Yeah, I think a lot of.
So it'll be very different circumstances, so it'll be interesting to see how that influences the numbers.
Just
Sure.
something, maybe that's something we keep in mind when the Bike to Work Day subcommittee is talking about where the elected officials might ride, and if that's a good opportunity to inaugurate a new section of the Bay Trail or something.
Yeah, it's a terrible bike ride over there.
I mean, it's not really a new section of the
It's
Bay
a
Trail, it's
covered
just
freeway.
greatly improved infrastructure.
Okay.
So, one of the things we're working with is Bay Trail staff to have the map done properly to accurately reflect what's there now, but what will be there within the lifetime of that map. So, in the next 6 months or a year to show pending infrastructure, so such as the Christie Avenue connection.
You know, all the surrounding bike facilities and stuff.
Well, not all of them, because you don't want to overcrowd the map, but yes, there's
Yeah.
definitely more information on there than just the Bay Trail.
You know, it'd be really nice.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah, that concludes my planning information.
And then we've got bike share, perhaps.
Bike share, well, what I want to let you know is, I've been working with Amber Evans here and trying to integrate with the regional effort for bike share, which at the moment is focused on Berkeley and Oakland. And they're working out their siting and a lot of things. That's sort of phase 2 of the regional. San Francisco's phase 1, this is phase 2. We had been sort of scrabbling to try and get into phase 2. We're not. And I think that there are advantages to that because they'll have worked out some of their kinks, and they're our main connecting points. So there may be advantages to being phase 3. So now the effort is to make sure, to politically and do everything we can to make sure we are in phase 3. So that's our effort. And then also to be thinking about routes and endpoints and possible sponsors. I mean, one of the things that's pushing this is we could, for instance, Sherwin-Williams is interested in have a condition of approval that they host a pod there, right? So we have other opportunities like that. So all these things are all in the nexus together. We're trying to make sure we don't miss opportunities while we're part of a timeline that's really not in our control. So that's where we stand. We're working on it.
But MTC approved funding for a pilot project, so we shouldn't be looking for sponsors. We should be using some of that sponsor money, that MTC is paying for.
Right, and the question is, after this phase, what will be available? We don't know. So we're looking at all the options, whether there, plans if there is MTC money, plans if there's not MTC money, we might want to buy it. Maybe if we're not included in their money, we might want to put city funds into
Well, we
buying
are,
it.
though. I was at the meeting when it was approved, so.
Yeah, there was a step, so at the board meeting in April 2013 or 14?
Yeah, 14.
14. It was listed Oakland, Emeryville, Berkeley.
Right.
Subsequently, there was, at some point, a request for a letter saying that you were in, and that did not happen. Nothing came from Emeryville for that.
Okay,
That's my understanding. So that's how we are now in phase 3.
okay. You're probably right. They did write the stamp, but nobody responded, but okay. Right.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
Can you say what's going to happen in phase 2 and what happens? Phase 2 is just a certain amount of money and a certain number of bikes are going to go on the ground?
It's my understanding right now, I don't know what the money looks like and whether they're husbanding any of it for later or not. What it's being really discussed as is geographic siting. So where are the last mile locations in Berkeley and Oakland? And just between us and the tape, they're citing methodology, but then they need the two.
Yeah, then you gotta go
Right.
somewhere.
Exactly.
And
And
then
that's what we
somewhere.
think we can be, and I think that would benefit everybody. So phase 3 is just kind of the next effort, the next whole administrative effort. And we're not even necessarily in phase 3, but it's our goal to be in phase 3.
But if I could say one thing, if we could have somebody from our staff there when they're at the ACTC and when they're at MTC, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes,
Okay.
we want to stay involved, and we're, I know the city manager is interested in, using her, whatever she can influence
Right.
there.
Okay.
Can I say that another place that would be good, and I'm assuming a sponsorship means not only that they pay for installing the pod, but they pay the maintenance costs for those bikes, that I think the public market has got a huge number of units going in, and it seems like they would be a great spot for a couple of pods maybe. I mean, you could practically ride a bike from one end of that development to the other,
Yeah.
if you wanted to.
And they have expressed a general interest in
They've
getting
been very,
engaged.
yeah, they've been very bike friendly, so it seems
Yeah.
like a good fit for them, and it seems like there must be space somewhere on
Well,
this huge.
they know what to hold, they know what the future holds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they seem pretty, so I just want to encourage staff to really talk about that with them as well, and
Yeah.
get them on.
yeah, and we're brainstorming ideas, and if you have ideas that you want to pass along, please do, because we're brainstorming them, but more eyes on it is better.
Well, it seems like Amtrak would be a no-brainer location
Yeah.
for
I think so.
pod. Yeah. But I don't know who would pay to put it there.
Yeah, maybe the MTC, maybe the city, maybe Capital Corridor, it's all remains to be seen, but we want to see what all the options are and make it happen whatever way we can.
Just
Hi, so bike share is one of my projects
Uh-huh.
with Biking Spain as well, so please feel free to keep me in the loop
Excellent,
with
yes,
whatever you
I will.
guys are planning. And yet, from what I understand, there's two elements where Emeryville might plug in. There's a phase 3, which could include funding from MTC, and then there's also when MTC releases their kind of sponsorship packet of sorts, which might outline buy-in potential for for companies. I know we've also talked with the landowners from the mall, who are also very interested in doing that, and we've mentioned
From Bay Street?
for Bay Street Mall.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a great location. Oh my goodness, people would go there and ride the bikes up the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're interested as well, and we were thinking that maybe the bids, or whoever it is that pays for the Emery-go-round could also look into that as an additional option, as something to complement the Emery-go-round.
Right, because they want to get bodies off the Emeryville.
Exactly, it's like, if you can buy more buses, you can also offer that.
Right.
Well, and that might actually it might help if we had to and from, it might help with the Saturday problem, although I think the ultimate solution is to run the Emery-go-round on the weekends. But, if the closest Emery-go-round stop is a mile from my house on the weekends, but I could do a bike share and get a lot closer, that would be a nice option.
Yeah.
And I will say that bike share it's not a recreational thing, it is a transportation system. So I encourage us to look at it like that. This is just it's like Emery-go-round, it's like Easy Transit, it is a transportation system, and citing pods is just like citing stops. You want it, so, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll keep you posted. Right now, our efforts are trying to get into phase 3, get the attention, and to get costing out for what it would cost if we wanted to buy it. If we were not included in grant funding, pilot funding, but we wanted in anyway, we could consider it if we knew what the cost was.
And maybe could we get sponsorship to cover all
Yeah,
this?
exactly. There are a lot of good options from that point.
Well, I could say that at the meeting, all the jurisdictions wanted to participate. It was just a limited opportunity.
Right.
But Emeryville is placed quite a bit better
Right.
than a lot of other
Absolutely.
cities to plug into
Absolutely.
the system.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, so that was that one. Oh, and now the next one is me too.
Public
So-
Works.
Public Works, so did you get this handout?
There's a, it's not a pass around.
All right, and you can call it up too, Sarah.
Thank you.
I try and do and do.
I was trying to check my email for it, like that's gonna be effective.
It's the Excel one on the bottom.
Thank you.
Oh, here, can you, it's okay. So this is, Laura requested that this be revived. This was something that Peter used to do and that Marcy did for a little while, and then it just slipped through the cracks, and now we're reviving it. And I think it's a really useful tool. So I'll just go through here and sort of generally, I don't know how Peter did it, but I won't try and take too much of our time. These are in alphabetical order. Bike Boulevard signage installation. Funding is available in the CIP for that, and the project is restarting now with staff in place. It's my understanding that planning already planned this out. Diana had an intern that planned out all the signage. So
Yes.
this is something that, we can get moving on, and we plan to get moving on shortly.
So do you have an idea when that might be completed, or?
We didn't get a firm date on that, did we? No, I don't know.
Maybe in the next 6 months.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Bus stop benches, we already discussed. Christie Avenue Bay Trail. We have permission to advertise on that one. And we're anticipating construction to start in May or June of this year.
And that's the cycle track.
Cycle track on the sort of north/east side of that curve of Christie. Greenway, 59th to Powell. The fences are coming down possibly this week. So that'll be usable. There's going to be some sidewalk work on 59th at the entrance to it. That is going to be next after the current sidewalk project, which is at 45th and Port.
My understanding is that bicycles are not permitted on that piece.
It's
That's
not
right.
designed for bicycles.
Bicycles are not permitted, you're right, because I was
Probably won't be
way pretty
enforced.
close to that.
Right, but the only reason bicycles weren't was because the crossing at Powell Street was considered too dangerous, but it's really too dangerous for pedestrians too, so.
When that was just, when you could just go through, I'd come this way on Powell and use that turn signal, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Right up that angle.
Bikes will use them. Well, I want to say that coordinating the sign installation with the completion of this would be good, because basically what we want is to turn bikes that are going to, say, to Mandela Parkway or something off of Doyle Street there, because there are a lot of bikes going through,
wonder by your
and
house.
then, well, I don't care, it's great. We have a ton more bike traffic by my house than we used to, which is awesome. And I think it's because the Greenway is so nice and it goes all the way through to Berkeley. But then people end up on San Pablo, which is not such a great place to be. And I've talked to some people who are actually going to West Oakland Bar, and I'm like, this is not where you should be. So I think we need signage there.
Northbound on Doyle?
Well, both ways I see them, but southbound on Doyle.
So it is marked southbound at the community garden to turn.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
to
They want you
turn
to turn right on 59.
Right, I'm just
And
trying
then
to
go down to
imagine that
Whitewater.
sign.
We were holding off on the signage in the reverse direction because there wasn't a great crossing there. We were
Right.
talking about the Hawk system and
Right,
there
right,
may be a
right.
future signal there.
So there is a sign at 59th? I guess nobody
Yeah.
sees it, including me.
I think we need a sign opposite Townhouse that says, go back, turn back, turn back, where are you?
No, I think the signage that if it's the same signage we talked about here, the nice thing about that is it's going to have destinations with mileage, which I pay way more attention to those as a bicyclist, because those are super helpful to me. And I think we were gonna have more signs, so I think between all of them, hopefully we'll catch people's attention, because I lived here for years. It was only after being on the BPAC that I realized that we were supposed to turn on 59.
Right.
There's no way to know that otherwise. It's not well marked, so I think the signage project.
All right, Greenway crossings study, this is that Institute for Transportation Studies thing that we talked about. We brainstormed things to report to them as issues and concerns. I did get, about 2 weeks ago, I got another email saying, okay, it's moving one more step, you've got evaluators assigned, and wait for their word. So I expect to hear from them any day. I think that'll happen relatively soon.
Is that, we're waiting for funding, or we're waiting?
No, we got the grant, and it's
Okay.
just it's a service, there's no money exchange.
It's in kind, yeah.
But the people doing the
Oh.
consultants, doing the service have been identified.
Okay.
So that's-
Oh, right, I remember.
Culprits have been
ITS,
identified.
and
This is this, the
Institute
crossings
for
of the
Transportation is using or whatever.
Yeah, so this is actually, is it Kittleson? Kittleson is the firm that's gonna be doing this, pro bono.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I had one thing about bike share I wanted to mention. Can we make it possible to use, like if you're gonna get bus passes, could you use that bike share instead? Could that benefit be possible for,
You mean a Clipper card?
Integrated with Clipper?
no, when you approve these projects and they're gonna give the residents bus passes, maybe they could use some of that for bike share instead of a bus pass.
Oh,
Oh, like a transportation
Yeah,
management?
right, yeah, I think that'd be a good option.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, the integration of Clipper is definitely one of those pie in the sky things that we want to happen,
Yeah, and for the lockers as well.
and for the walkers as well,
Right.
exactly.
But that's not,
but
we're not
yes,
there yet.
But using bike share cards, or discounted bike share cards as an incentive from employers
Right,
and
that's
from
right.
resident buildings is definitely something on our list.
All right, great. Okay.
All right, the next one, Greenway Stanford to Powell by Broken Rack. That's on hold pending staff availability. We're talking about probably next winter on that.
So, can you, I just want to, I mean, I understand that staff, not having enough staff is an issue, but I feel like the design of this happened several years ago, and it was like, gosh, we have to do it right away because we had some grant or something, and we had a deadline, and then it's just been sitting there ever since
Yeah.
then. Is it just
Killed
because,
by a redevelopment or something?
is it just, was it the
No,
redevelopment? There
I
was no
think
money to
just,
build
there
it?
were other priority projects.
Okay, but we have money to build it, it's just staff.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like an $800,000.
No.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear.
I remember the number.
Yeah, Maurice and Mike are aware of the grant deadlines, and that's always part of the discussion, is you don't want to lose money.
Right,
It's on the
right,
table.
right.
All right, Horton Street traffic calming. This is near and dear. We got the list of approved consultants from ACTC, who the grant came from. They've got their own, so we're going to send out RFPs to a few of those, including Alta, who did our bike plan. I'm hoping to get it out this week. I have a draft on my desktop, and I hope to get that out this week. And we would anticipate moving on that in March, around March. You know, if we could get responses by early March and then work things out and start getting going on the design of the measures. So that's moving. The other thing is the speed signs. I don't know if you've noticed, I turned them on Friday. I think I turned them on. They have been collecting data since December 4th in stealth mode, and now we turned them on. So we're gonna see what the feedback does to speeds, which I think is interesting.
Are they permanent? It looked like they were like.
They're permanent. I mean, they're permanent. We have no plans to move them. There may be a time when, if traffic is really calm and stable there, we'll move them somewhere else. Because they give us good counts, really good data.
Do they count bicycles at all, or they're just?
They count, well, that's actually something. They count from 5 miles an hour up.
Oh, so that's.
So I was roughly choosing, I was trying to do counts, I pulled out 5 to 15 miles an hour. And I know I'll capture some cars in there, and I know I'll miss some bikes in there. But I thought, that's roughly, it's a good rough number of how many bikes there are. And I pulled that out, and it's a good number. I mean, I would say, just off the top of my head, in a given hour, it could be, a couple hundred, at a rush hour time in one direction. So the data, obviously, with great data comes great manipulation. So it's kind of, it's a lot to go through, but it's very potentially powerful. So I'm excited about it.
Can I look at the data?
Yeah, I would love for us to see the data. Once you have manipulated it.
I don't
Or
see
before
any
you
reason why
manipulate
not. Well, yeah, I mean,
Just out of curiosity, just like messing around.
yeah, I don't see why not, but I don't know what policies are on that,
Yeah,
but I don't
that's
see why not, especially if you could, massage some reports out of it, could be really a good situation. What I did find just off the top was that it appears that northbound traffic is about twice as heavy as southbound traffic.
Interesting. And bike traffic, at all times.
I mean,
Oh,
total, overall. car traffic.
Right, I'm not surprised at that at all.
No.
Yeah, it's coming from the,
It's rush hour bypass.
yeah.
And
it
I
is.
just came down and I saw, let me see, I counted the cars as I came down from like 62nd to Park, and it was about 30 cars in about 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, and some days you see that there's a huge spike, and I would love to cross-reference with Caltrans, like what was happening in the maze at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So, again, the data are really rich. I don't know what we'll be able to pull out of it, but
It would be
Waze
nice.
is changing the whole planning process.
Well, I think that it would be nice to have that data on how many bikes, because I don't know, I guess, I don't know how much we've had bike counts that are like 24/7
Yeah.
like that. And if we can say, look, there's a high volume of bike traffic too,
Exactly,
then it adds to the argument for making that.
exactly.
And I'd love to comment that in the long run, the traffic diverter is gonna need to be at 40th Street.
And I think also at Stanford, because I think I said this
There
before.
won't be one on Stanford now.
Oh,
Once
well,
you go in at 40th Street, you won't
I
need
guess
one.
what I want to say is,
Be
I
a nice
think
fancy turnaround rotary there.
whatever we do on Horton Street has to be deterrent enough to deter the FedEx drivers. Because I had the unpleasant experience of riding with them a few weeks ago, and it was really scary. And I could see, they had killed one person in Emeryville already on a different situation, a dangerous intersection, but it's not a good situation to be sharing a street with those guys, so we've got to build it. I almost feel like we should make them pay for it, because they're the problem. They should pay, because we'll have to over-engineer it to make it enough to deter them. And I'm afraid that a couple blocks of diversion may not be enough to compensate for all those blocks without lights, for them. I don't know. I guess we'll try it and we'll see.
Yeah, we'll try it.
And when, has anyone looked to see how many cars might be included in that under 15 miles per hour?
No.
Just
I mean, no, that, obviously there are some, like the security cars go by, and it's not far from the Chiron or Novartis
So someone's slowing
driveway, so
down,
someone could be
yeah.
slowing down to go in there.
Or do we
It's-
not care about cars that are going that slow?
No, we care. I just wanted to get a rough kind of guess about how many bikes are on there, and that was my rough measure. I figured there would be bikes going over 15, and there'd be cars going under 15, and maybe, it was very unscientific. Yeah. Okay, next one is Safe Routes to School, which is in progress. We have, plans are complete, and we have the Caltrans permit that we need. The project will bid in spring, and the goal is to complete it before the opening of ECCL.
And is this, we've seen this already? This is stuff that we've seen in the past? Have we seen this?
A while ago, wasn't it?
Oh,
Years ago? I don't remember.
It's not coming to my mind. I remember hearing about this grant, and I know we talked a lot about the Star intersection, which was a safe routes to transit, I think.
I worked on the grant stuff when I was an intern here, so that was
It's
a couple years ago. So you might have seen it, but it would have been a while ago.
This was, this line item was actually on the old one of these that I used to create it. So my suspicion is it already came through
Right.
at some point.
These are bulb outs and some flashing beacon signs at crosswalks.
Around that block where the,
43,
let's see,
45,
from-
47?
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, I do remember this. It's crossing, getting kids across. San
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why it's Caltrans, because
Okay, got it, okay.
those guys, yeah.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I do remember that. I wasn't sure if it related to that site or the same problem.
All right, the next one is Shellmount Street / Way improvements, and that's something near and dear to your heart, Laura, right there by the hotel, which is Hyatt Place? No, Hyatt
Got
House?
some names.
I don't know what it's called.
Something's going on with the hotel?
No, but that's where we're talking about, that area.
Right.
So there are some things already planned, which, I mean, we have some ideas, but for the moment, we're delaying because we want to see how it's going to hook up with what's planned at the marketplace development. We don't want to build something and then have it not match up with what their plans are, their road moves or whatever. And also to see what we can get out of them, conditions of approval to build it to match theirs. So we're anticipating movement in this summer on that. So it's not going to be on hold forever, but it's not moving right now.
I guess what I want to say about that is I think there was some stuff about, it may require some structural things, because it had to do with getting rid of a turn pocket to make room for
Yes.
a striping. But if there's mostly we were talking about paint. We weren't talking about actually changing the physical street
Yeah.
layout. So I don't know if we were talking about
All right,
moving
take a call.
concrete.
Thanks, Cynthia.
We are talking about some paint that might be done at the same time as the Christie.
Is the farther,
Mhm.
so getting them to pay for the paint, is that the issue?
Well, that's our project anyway. No, we could do that part, but if there's
Okay.
anything more elaborate,
I guess I just want to say there's an unsafe condition right now there for cyclists. There's a gap in the roadway, cycleway. And if there's any way that we could do the paint, and even if it has to be redone at the paint, it's not, just want to put it out there, that the sooner we can do that, the better.
Next one, sidewalk improvement program. The first section is underway at Horton Street and 45th Street.
You can see it.
Yeah, and then the next one will be 59th, where we talked about with the new section of Greenway. And it'll move on from there. And then the last one is video detection traffic signal enhancement. And this is something that everybody wants to do, a big project to change loops to video and to do it system-wide. And to make sure the video we have is working and make sure the whole system is working. So it's on here. It doesn't have a date right now, but it is on our radar.
This is different from the thing that Maurice talked to us about, of extending the times, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
is that already done?
No, well, I
The
think that was
study,
done quite, yeah, that was done quite.
they did a study, and I don't know if the study got,
Head times or bike crossing times?
it was both. It was both. It was extending the ped times to accommodate ADA and seniors, and it was extending.
That, I believe, was done.
Okay,
That
so I
was-
think the
that
bike
was a
times.
requirement, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're aware that there are crossings that are not working for bike sensing right now, and obviously that's a high priority.
Where, these are all intersections with traffic signals?
Just all.
Everything with a
Certain
traffic
place.
signal is supposed to, it's
Yeah.
supposed to trigger when you ride your bicycle.
No, I mean, I was wondering, like, which intersections are we talking about? Just all
We
over
don't
town?
have a list, anywhere it's still loop detection, we would change that out for video detection, which was more
Anything
reliable.
that's not on just a basic timer.
And the video is set so that it will detect not just the car, but also the bike over in the bike lane, like it has a wider, is
Yeah.
that, just the
Curb to
bike?
curb, right?
Oh, it's curb to curb, so it.
So is it in use anywhere already?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have many locations,
Oh,
this will cover the rest.
Cool. I don't know if this is where to comment, but I will just say yet again that Horton's, Beaudry Street, where it crosses Powell, has a light that's on a sensor. And if I push the button northbound and someone comes southbound, they get a red light, even though I have a green light and all the cars are stopped. And I came today and I could see the flashing light so that I knew a ped had pushed it, but I had a red light. And it's, yeah, and it has been like this for a while. I mean, it does seem like if I get there in the middle of it, it will turn green for me. I'm not quite sure, but.
Could you say that again, I'm sorry?
So if you're on Beaudry's, okay, so on Powell Street at Beaudry, there's a light and it's defaults to green on Powell. It has a sensor for people on Beaudry, peds and bikes and cars. And if somebody is
A
crossing,
pedestrian activated.
it's
signal.
ped or bike or car, there's a sensor and a button.
Okay.
And if somebody crossing in one direction activates it, either car or bike, but there isn't someone at the intersection at that moment in the other direction, it will still show red for the other direction. So if I'm a ped waiting to cross and a car gets a green light, all the traffic on Powell is stopped, but I don't know to push the button, I'm still getting a red light while that's going on. And
Oh, and-
also the intersection
Are you
only
getting
flashes on the
do not
side.
walk, or are you getting a red light?
You're getting both. You're getting
Wow.
both.
And
Well, you
if
would
it-
still get a do not walk if the car
So
activated.
Laura, also, if a bike gets the green going one direction, a bike coming up on the other end will not see a green light. They'll
You
have a
will
red
not,
light.
you will approach, you'll see someone crossing and you'll be like, how are they crossing? The light is red. That happens, not often. It's a nice responsive light. It turns pretty fast once you do get to the sensor.
But only one side.
But it is one-sided, which seems odd to me. It seems like I should see a green light if I'm approaching and someone is already using it, even if I haven't hit the sensor yet, so.
And especially if cross traffic is stopped,
But yeah, like why waste it? It
Yeah.
seems like a programming error that's been going on for a while. I know that you guys just had to install a new light there because somebody hit it or something. I saw that. So I don't know if it's a good time to fiddle with that programming, but it just seems like it's a mistake or something.
Okay, shall we move on to our next item? Or we forgot the premise? We got
That's
there.
that.
New business for next regular PPAC. We had this nice
Thank you
big
for
list
this, by the way. Thank you.
of future agenda items, and I was hoping if we had everybody here, we could take a few things off the list and concentrate on a couple of others.
Well, you got
I
five
got a
people.
question, what the hell is parking day?
Oh, parking day. Parking day is in September, and it's a day when people take over parking spots and turn them into parks for the day. They feed the meter if there's a meter, and they put down AstroTurf, and they have whatever, some fun activity. They put out chairs. It's sort of a way
Well,
to.
in most municipalities, if you went past the maximum amount on that meter, you would then
Well,
have to move your
see,
parklets.
here's the thing, it started in San Francisco, and San Francisco very quickly adopted it and has embraced it, and the city has their own little parklets, and it's actually been a real nice, I think that's part of why San Francisco has so many parklets, because people have gotten that experience. So it might be something we want to bring to Emeryville, have a parking day experience.
Okay, but
That would be a good thing to have on the agenda in like July. because
Yeah,
it's a
but I'd like
September
to, what I would like,
I would suggest a month before
the
that.
bike pack, e-pack meeting possibly is that 40th Street thing, because that's pretty beat up.
thing. What 40 is?
The overpass, yeah, the bridge. I mean, I was there a couple of times in the last month, and it just,
Those
does.
things are coming off.
yeah, it's coming apart. I mean, I don't understand why there isn't something like a cycle track there.
Wait, can I clarify which item we're talking about right now? We're
It's the
talking about-
40th Street Bridge over approach. the bike
So we're on
path.
this,
This
this
list.
is the next.
Yeah, there's suggested future items. There's a.
Right, we were talking about parking day, and they were talking about 40th Street, and then.
Yeah.
Well, these are two things that I had circled and was wondering about.
Maybe we should put this list on the agenda for next time as an item and go through it and subtract and add.
Well,
Yeah, because we're not gonna get to all of these things. I mean, some of these, like lighter colored pavements, I don't understand, I don't know what.
Oh, you know, I think that's one I would love to see on the agenda. I was just thinking about that, because that was something that we addressed. I mean, maybe it's a non-starter, so we should just forget about
This
it.
one I think is, to me, it's kind of urgent, which is the Bay Trail Extension crossing of Christie Avenue. And assuming I've understood correctly, the way the Bay Trail is crossing Christie at Powell, it's a very dangerous crossing for pedestrians going east. Going west, it's not so dangerous, but that's because there's an island there that's a refuge in the middle, and that's supposedly coming out within the new design. But going east is terribly hazardous because the pedestrian is getting a walk signal while the cars who cannot see the pedestrian are in a dedicated turn lane with a green light. So they're not stopping at a red light and then turning, they are speeding around the corner because they just come off the freeway. So the only reason I feel there's not more accidents there is that nobody uses it. But once the Bay Trail crosses, you'll have cyclists coming out from behind a hedge, getting a go sign, a cross sign at the same, and appearing kind of out of nowhere at the same time that the cars, high speed, rounding the curve. And I watch the drivers, they're looking in all directions, but they're not looking back because they can't, because it's a rounded curve, it's a rounded turn, not an angled turn. Anyway, I think it's terribly hazardous, and I think we should take another look at that, before kind of signing off on that as the Bay Trail crossing. I think there's some improvements that could be made to it that might make it safer, like changing the signals, changing what the cars are doing when the bikes get the signal to go and to cross, and then changing the corner into a sharp 90-degree corner instead of a rounded corner. So I think, those are kind of the two things that I can see changing. I tend to not cross there. I will actually walk to the middle of the block and just cross, and because I can see both directions very easily from the middle of the block.
I mean, right near the Trader Joe's almost.
Yeah, it's right
I
near.
mean, where I make that illegal left turn. Check.
I would cross anywhere except for there, it's just too dangerous. But right now, there's very little reason a pedestrian would ever cross there, so for that reason, it's not a hazard. But if we're gonna make that the Bay Trail, there could be a lot of people crossing there. So, perfect, that's my vote for an agenda item coming up soon.
Yeah. I will say that I think we had that discussion, and Maurice Kaufman was very adamant that none of those things were gonna happen. But I think I think we had a discussion about how unsafe that intersection is with the cycle track going in, but I think.
You mean Hell and Christie?
Not when I was present. I mean,
Oh, you were to that discussion.
My recollection is that we started talking about when we were reviewing the Christie Avenue changes.
And
And
that
the discussion
wasn't-
was that like this needs to be a separate discussion about that intersection.
Because it wasn't part of the project. So
Exactly.
why, that's a good, I think we
Yeah,
should bring
it's
it,
really-
yeah.
Yeah, so then Emeryville's gonna be running into Caltrans, where Caltrans is like, well, you're backing up our freeway off.
That's what, yeah, Bruce was
Exactly.
talking about.
Exactly.
Well.
Well, there's
we'll just
another
have to
issue
do it.
about
We already backed
the
up that
freeway, and that's because of during rush hour, the number of cars that are cutting across Powell, and they're getting off and then back on. And so that's quite a lot of cars that are coming
It's
off.
surprising
And,
how many people
and
go
it's-
straight.
it's not
Isn't
during rush hour, but not at any other
No,
time.
it says you can't.
of
But
day.
I think, isn't there gonna be landscaping that will prevent that in
No,
the
they-
plan, that for the upgrade for?
Well, that might be phase 3, which is way off in the future. So right now, it's not well signed that cut through is illegal.
So it sounds like we should talk about this.
Yeah, so let's talk about.
Yes, I mean, in a way, it's connected because,
Yeah.
because if we didn't have that problem, then the freeway might not back up.
Oh.
Well, it's still
People
back up,
wouldn't
but it
be-
won't be quite as bad.
Right,
I'm
not
sure.
as many people getting in the off-ramp.
So you want to talk about from Powell between
The
the
off-ramp.
freeway and
The
the
cycle
Powell
track.
Street overpass?
Well, they're two kind of separate, I mean, actually, there's 3 issues because there's another unsafe pedestrian crossing over there as well. So I don't know if we should talk about all of them at one meeting. The Bay Trail is, I think, is separate and kind of urgent.
Well, I see a couple things we can take off. City cycle track on the east side of Shellmound Street, that's already happening. And make approach to Bay Bridge Trail more friendly to bikes and peds. I think that's exactly what we're talking about here.
I think the cycle track on Shellmount Street was John Fricke's idea of 2 ways.
Yeah, that was brought up by somebody, a two-way one all the way to like Aquatic Park or to the border.
Oh, to continue it to the bridge over the.
To maybe remove a vehicle lane and put 2 ways on the east side of Shellmount.
Of
So it's a
Shellmount.
very
Certainly gonna
elaborate
conflict with
project.
public markets planning at this point.
I'm just saying, we're not building that.
It's a nice
If you
idea,
want to leave it
though.
on, please do.
The cycle track on the east side of Shellmound.
Yes.
Is that, it's not the one we're talking about,
No.
it's something different?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I know you want to take items off the agenda, but I was thinking about having a no-car day in Emeryville and see what the committee would think about that.
I can't quite imagine it, that sounds lovely.
Okay?
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, we do have a little bit of time to talk about tightening up this list.
I think we can take
Um,
important street traffic calming update off too, because that's just sort of an ongoing, we'll keep getting updates.
Yeah.
Under the 7/7/14, it's on there.
Oh. And then, you know, if there's something you want to suggest for the next meeting, you know, pick something off this list or.
Well, and I also want to say maybe.
40th Street.
I think 40th Street and
We use the
the
building
Powell
policy
Street
here.
stuff that Celeste is talking about would be good things. I think it would also be
Yes.
good to have things that have no time value in a separate list, like walkability. That can go on any time, like tonight we had a light agenda. Might be a time to add something like that, just, you know, just a thought.
This sidewalk bike riding ordinance. Is there a prohibition about riding in a commercial district or anything in Emeryville, or there's no prohibition about riding in sidewalks at all?
I would
I
like to
don't think
just
so.
take that off. If
I don't think we
can.
have any ordinance related to
don't.
that.
Someone
That's like,
suggested,
you know, Berkeley has one in commercial districts.
Right.
No roller skating, no skateboards, no bicycle.
well, in Emeryville, I mean, Oakland has one overall.
But since bicycles are vehicles, isn't that redundant? Because vehicles aren't supposed to be on the sidewalk anyway.
I think the rule in California is that bicycles are allowed in sidewalks unless prohibited by municipalities, which is probably part of them not really being considered vehicles. And in Oakland, I think the rule is adults can't ride on the sidewalk, but kids can, which don't want necessarily.
That's common, that's,
But
yeah.
I agree that riding on the sidewalk is terrible. I've already done it a couple times today.
It's also kind of dangerous.
It's really dangerous, it's stupid. But I feel like until we have safer bike routes, I would hate to outlaw it, because if that's what somebody needs to feel safe. I know a couple people who've been hit by bicyclists on the sidewalk. I don't think it's a great idea at all.
Well, and then the safety of a bicyclist going down a ramp and joining traffic, or coming from a sidewalk when a motorist doesn't expect it. You expect a
Well,
pedestrian.
it's the in and out, it's the in and out of traffic that is your conflict thing.
Yeah.
Much like when you see somebody riding a bike and they go in with somebody
Right,
parking
yeah.
back out like that, and I'm thinking, each one of these places is way for you to
Blind
get
spot.
hit. Yeah.
Well, and I read a statistic that you're actually 3 times as likely to get in an accident on a bike if you're riding on the sidewalk for that reason, that at the intersections are huge danger
Right.
zones for you on a bicycle. So, yeah, but
But no ordinance.
I would say let's wait on that until we have a better bike network. Do we want to just,
So that mean we scratch that one, or?
unless somebody wants to take ownership, it doesn't have a name unless someone wants to say they really want to sponsor that. Michael, can I ask
Think
you,
about
lighter colored pavement, should we just take that off because there's.
What's that
there's just no-
for?
Okay, we got repaved a couple of years ago, and all the bike routes got repaved, which was nice that they were prioritized, but the new paving, in my opinion, was worse than the old paving. It was just, there was something with the slurry seal that was very lumpy. But it was also really dark. No, but it was also really dark, and in this era of global warming, the issue came up that we wanted the city to look into lighter colored pavements, and I don't know if there's some technical, everybody seems to be putting down this black slurry seal, and I don't know if that's just what's available.
Cost effective.
It's actually a little more expensive to put down, but we feel that it preserves the street longer, and the marking will show up much better against the black background and the gray.
So the gray, you could do gray, and would it be slurry seal, or it would be, so there is, so we could revisit that.
So if you look at any old street that hasn't been recently slurried seal, it would be that color.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so it's not that it's a different technology, it's that the city's choosing the dark color because they feel it's
Safer because it contrasts with the
Especially in the
stripe.
dark and the rain in a car with which you
Yeah,
can see it, things
Yeah.
a lot better.
yeah.
on black.
But this item was, I think, something that Ruth had brought up, because there's a little bit of a move to actually pave with a white.
And maybe do
And
the
I'm
markings.
not familiar with details about it, I haven't seen it locally, or I
So
haven't
you have
seen it.
not absorbed solar.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did hear, I don't know if this is at all true, but that if we all painted our roofs white, it would have a huge effect on global warming. So we're not all gonna paint our roofs white for whatever reason, but it occurs to me
So
that
they could do roofing materials that are lighter.
they
Well,
could.
the urban
but-
heat effects.
Right, and it just occurs, it just seems like having lighter colored pavement on the street would be a piece of that. Anything we can do that's not absorbing so much heat, but reflecting it back off. So I say we keep it on.
Well, there is a climate action plan, I don't know if,
Yeah. So bike
That would
parking
fit in.
design at new and existing
Yeah, well, so
projects,
what
that
does that
seems
do
very
about-
vague.
what, sorry?
Well, the lighter colored pavement thing, what does that have to do about cyclists or pedestrians?
No, nothing, you're
So that's
right.
climate, right?
It really is climate, it's a cycle,
Yeah,
okay, all right.
So
you're
anything to
right.
get a couple of these things off so we can deal with it.
It's not about painting cycle tracks in different colors so they show up.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's right, the green probably absorbs more, rays.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Not that, no, not that.
So bike parking designs at new and existing projects is very vague. I don't know what that means. I mean, we talk about it every time they come up.
I think we're fine because we do have,
We
we're
have
getting them.
guidelines that,
We're getting them.
Yeah, the projects come here,
okay, I
So-
think we can take that up.
yeah, that's too generic.
Yeah, it doesn't, I think there was an issue that people were putting in bike parking that was poorly designed, so it wasn't very useful.
Well, it's
But it
changed a lot.
doesn't seem like that's happening anymore, so I think the
When they
city
come-
has rules.
Yeah, they're coming to us with one-to-one.
Yeah.
parking inside their apartments and stuff.
Yeah,
And, well, I'm ready to give up
okay.
for today. Well, we'll have a couple more people on the committee next month. And maybe
Oh, really?
we'll have somebody. Well, I mean, we only got 5, and maybe we'll have more people
Oh,
show up.
Yeah. So
Sure.
I want to say, staff providing notices to BPAC of anticipating repaving. This might, when is the repaving schedule? Is it already too late for that? Has it already been decided what's getting repaved this summer? I'm just thinking that would be a good one for next month if,
Yeah, we could.
would you mind just giving us a heads up?
Sure.
Next month?
Yeah,
Yeah,
staff,
well, that is
just,
March.
just so we know what's going to
Yeah.
be repaved this summer and maybe have a little input on.
Okay.
So we agreed to add the 40th Street Bridge Approach, Bay Trail extension, and a little bit
Add
of
to,
Well, the Bay,
repaving.
not Bay Trail
To our,
extension, but
to our agenda next month.
it's not Bay Trail extension, it's the entrance,
The
it's that,
crossing.
the crossing.
it's the crossing.
Of Christie at Powell.
Yeah.
Bay Trail.
Bay Trail
Crossing.
Crossing, okay. So, wait, we got 40th Street Bridge Approach, the Bay Trail Crossing at Christie, and the repaving discussion.
Yeah.
Did you say parking day?
No,
No,
that
that's
we're
not-
gonna push that back to like
Okay.
June, July.
That's June, okay. And also already on for next month, because I didn't get it on this month, is the 45th
Oh,
Street
yes,
traffic
45th Street.
counts.
Oh,
Is that why Brian didn't show up?
So if there's gonna be any major projects that come from,
they
I was
might
gonna
not
say,
somehow.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we just identify which ones are our priorities, which I think we just did. And
we're trying.
depending on what is coming up for review, we've been seeing a lot of times when projects come in, looking at the bike ped features, which is
Have
good,
we got
that's a
a
good
couple
thing.
coming up next month?
I don't know, but I wanna make sure that
That
we
goes
don't
priority.
overstack an agenda.
If they bring 5 people in and take 45 minutes,
Right.
yeah.
I want to say this NACDO webinar, we can just take that off, we're never going to have time to do that. And we can pipe dream.
I have a
What is the
Their
40th
website.
Street,
allergic reaction to the word webinar.
what is the 40th Street Bridge Approach? item?
Well, it's basically over 40th Street, they've narrowed it down to what, 1 lane, used to be 2 lanes, and it's
For
all beat
cars.
up, and you can hardly see any of the markings anymore.
Oh, restriping it
Well,
as is?
Perhaps.
Like those little,
Yeah.
I think that
not
her
for some-
actual idea was probably how to get there,
It's
right?
been so long, I don't really remember, to be honest, but I
Wasn't
think.
that long ago,
I,
really
no,
last year.
all right, that's a long time, it was more than yesterday, so that's a long
2012
time.
already.
I think it might have been, I was concerned about, because that's a big way for people to get to the new bridge approach, which this summer is gonna go all the way to Treasure Island, so it's gonna give you more traffic, just making that, the bikeways nicer in that area, better. There's some deficiencies in some of the bikeways around there, but, honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember, I'm trying to
well,
think which
I remember it
direction.
coming up that it's worn. It might have been Robert Prinz also, somebody else that was here, that it's
So
just.
this says approaches, and that's pretty
Yeah, that's
specific.
different.
Yeah.
That's different, and I'm trying to think what I meant, and I honestly don't.
my recollection, I could be wrong, is that particularly when you're headed this direction, so west, that when it narrows, when it goes down to 1 lane, not all cars actually merge.
Yeah.
And
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
putting something in that's more high visibility to be like, hey, you need to merge over so that they're not all of a sudden.
Yeah, so
But
they
the
want
merge-
to go in the bike lane, or they think they're
No,
in the
they're-
traffic lane and they don't get over.
Yeah.
They don't get
something.
over from the buffer zone there.
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
going really fast. and
Yeah.
Very
it's very
fast.
scary. Yeah, the buffer zone made a huge difference on that bridge, but it has
So
not.
I
is
think
it
it's-
mostly westbound, not so much eastbound?
Yeah, and it's
Yes,
about
yes.
improving the visibility to have,
Does feel like that, yeah.
make it easier for cars to see sooner that they have to move over, which I think the idea was also maybe that would slow them down in high hopes.
Well, I think it was pretty
Clear.
well marked initially. It seemed like it worked really well, and maybe it's just, I think there were even bumpy things that you drive over that would
Yeah,
tell
they're
you.
white bumpy things.
Yeah.
A lot of
but-
white pavement, maybe the contrast isn't enough.
Box
That's
stops.
contrast.
Yeah, I think that's what they are, but maybe,
Dots.
maybe
Yeah.
they've gotten worn down or something, because I have noticed, I don't go that way if I can avoid it, but that, exactly. what you're
So,
talking about.
have we talked about it enough, or do we want to put it on the agenda?
Well, do we need to
Well-
put it on agenda, or can that just get put on a list of
I
sort
hear
of routine
that-
maintenance?
There's restriping on it,
And more dots.
More markers, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, this isn't an approach, but there's a whole block on Shellnote, I think it is, behind Bay Street, where there is a bike lane stripe, but there are no bike insignias for an entire block, for some reason. And that seems like a really easy thing to fix, just,
Well, okay,
going
so.
northbound. But that's not,
Like, finishing up
Yeah,
with
that's right,
40th
there's a whole
Street.
bunch, there's a nice bunch of drain gutters there that are right in the middle of that thing, right?
yeah,
That's a pretty bad
another
bike
issue.
lane.
Yeah.
On Showman Street?
Yeah, I
Street.
guess that's the, yeah, no, well, it's Shellma, yeah, I guess that is all Shellma.
I'm just asking, I don't know.
Across from IKEA and Bay Street.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, okay, right.
Backside
that
of Bay
route-
Street, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
So for,
That route is miserable for pedestrians. I don't know if there's any improvement, but that's one reason I would take the bus home from here instead of walking, is just to avoid that section.
which
The
section?
bridge, the 40th Street Bridge.
Oh, God, I can't imagine walking over that. That's so.
It's not the sidewalk itself, but just the cars.
Well, you know, I'd have to go back, I haven't done it in years, I'd have to go back and do it to see what's so awful about it, but it really is awful. So I mean, maybe when the bridge is built across the railroad that ends at Horton Street, you know, maybe that'll provide a better alternative.
You
And
know-
I certainly, if you're gonna be
Yeah.
talking about it, I could certainly look at it and see if there's any possible way to make it more pleasant for pedestrians to walk on 40th.
I think one of the issues is beyond our control, which is that the bridge is here and there's the maze is here, and there's just crap that
Yeah.
comes down off it. It's there's always trash there, and I think it's coming down off the highway,
Well-
and there's not much we can do about that.
Well,
It's-
As an aside, you know, I like how the Bay Bridge approach, you know, curves under all that stuff. And the day before they opened, I talked with some Caltrans guy there, he said, you know what type of stuff comes off that thing every once in a while?
Oh, no.
Bumpers, axles,
Oh, wow.
wheels,
Off of that could fall on the
Yeah.
Bay Trail?
85 feet up, or whatever it is.
I hope that never happens.
Okay, so,
As an aside.
so for next,
That'll help it.
An axle
I'm gonna get a hard hat, right? Yeah.
Full body
Our
armor.
hats aren't, I guess.
So Mike, were you saying that you thought this could be done as just part of the, put into the maintenance schedule and done as? sort of-
Yeah, so restriping the bridge, we actually have to seal the entire bridge to preserve the life of the concrete, and with that, we would restripe the bridge.
Is that on the schedule for this year?
I don't know exactly when, probably not this year.
Oh, not this year.
Yeah.
So is there a way?
Is there any point in talking about it?
Yeah, I guess, is there a way to upgrade, you know, to fix the buffer lane ahead of that? I think it may have gotten degraded sooner because so many cars drive over it.
So with the buffer, we're talking about not necessarily reconfiguring the geometry, but
No.
putting the markers down.
Refreshing it.
Redoing, yeah, what's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be done as a maintenance.
Do we need to put it on an agenda and take it to the transportation committee, or is it something that you guys can just do? What's the process for
Maybe we should put it on the agenda.
that? Can't hurt.
Maybe it'll
Let's
get
put it on the
done
agenda so that we can talk
March.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want it on next month?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's do it,
so for
because then
March.
it'll be good timing if we're talking about what's getting repaved, we can add it to whatever the
Okay,
summer
all right.
projects are, asked for.
So for March, we've got the 40th Street Bridge, Bay Trail crossing at Christie.
Of Christie at Powell.
Yeah. And,
45th.
We have 45th Street,
Right.
and then hopefully a little thing about, a little report on when you guys are gonna do repaving.
In anticipated repaving for the summer. So
Right,
what streets
right.
are gonna be repaved?
so that doesn't include any potential planning projects?
So that's why I'm saying these are our priorities.
So we give ourselves a few minutes on each.
So, well, or,
Right now, well,
I was just gonna
That's a
suggest
lot.
whether we, ask whether we want to leave it open, so if there's a big project and you want time to talk about it, should one of these things maybe be bumped
Well,
to,
maybe we should
April.
decide what.
That'll be an
can
executive decision that will be made when,
by you.
it's not by me.
Well, I just wanna say, if there's any of these
It'll
that are
be- it'll be
time
Marcy
sensitive.
and Betsy and I.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if
Somebody will get fired.
I don't know if the Christie thing can wait, because that's not part of a project that's going on now, but it seems like 40th Street and repaving might, if we go to it next month, we might just miss an opportunity to have any input.
Missed the vote, huh?
I think you executives can decide.
Yeah, and the repaving schedule, I mean, Mike might bring something in writing on the repaving schedule or something, just to hand
Yeah,
out.
list of the streets and hopefully maybe a little plot map.
Okay. Cool. I was just wondering if Tom was adjourning because he was collecting things.
He was hoping to.
You know, I wanted to make one comment, and that's if you haven't gotten a notice of it, the Transform annual meeting in Sacramento is coming up April 27th, and the meetings and workshops are on the 27th, and then there's followed an advocacy day in which you meet with our representatives. I went last year, the whole thing was very enlightening.
Yeah.
And rather exciting. And what else was I gonna say about it? And when I went last year, I stayed at the youth hostel, which is an absolutely beautiful, charming, Victorian, it's just
Wow.
wonderful. Anyway, so I think this year there'll be a lot more to talk about, because I think there'll be more money information from the cap and trade money, which should be increasing every year. So I think there'll be decisions to be made about the spending of the cap and trade. I think that's probably what a fair amount of the meeting will be about. So I highly recommend it for people to go to it and lend your voice in all of these matters.
Yeah, I want to say that I inadvertently left off the part where BPAC members can make announcements on here.
I
So you
remember,
just
I
did.
remember the place, yes.
Any other announcements, anyone? Kevin, come on. All right.
Wow.
adjourned.
Congratulations on a short meeting.
Great.
Well,
Encourage people to.
Yeah. Short,